Hey guys, Evil Mr. Alex here again today, and we're gonna be briefly looking at the Recon combat machines that will be put into the game eventually, with some of my speculation as well as give some insight to people who don't read the forums or look at RETO's Trello page. So for our first set of recon vehicles here, we're just gonna do the tier 1s. We have the German half-track from the infantry, so it looks like the German half-track gets moved from the infantry over to the recon tier 1, which is kind of interesting. I guess it saves them some time, so they don't have to come up with a new concept. Next, for the Americans, we have the M3A1 Scout Car, which will pretty much kind of play just like the half-track. I imagine the half-track would be better off-road, but that 50 cal should help out the American car a bit better. And for the Russians, we got the D8, but there is another thing here. It says alternative D12. I like the idea of the D8 more because it has a single machine gun, opposed to having the idea of the D12, which would basically make the car just like a BA-64. And it's kind of unique in its own way, where it's got like a rear-facing MG. I can imagine you driving this thing around and quickly turning around and getting your gunner to just mow a bunch of people down. Or just doing drive-bys, the driver misses the guy trying to run him over, and then the gunner just mows him down with the MG. Oh, that would just be hilarious. So, pretty much tier 1 vehicles, they're all fairly equal in their own way. I mean, the German one's going to be the slowest, but it's going to have better off-road capability. The American one, I guess, will just be, well, it's the fastest, but more so that it'll have the better gun. You'll have a 50 cal, and the Russian one will just be your fun troll vehicle. So with the going on to the tier 2, we have the 221, we have the M20, and we have the BA-64. They're all about roughly the same speed. 221 is 10 kilometers an hour faster than the 64. Actually, it being the fastest by 2 kilometers on the M20. But, and again, like, you kind of have all sort of equal vehicles, sort of. I imagine 221 and BA-64, they're basically exactly the same, just maybe the size. The 221 is slightly bigger, it's slightly faster, but the M20 in the middle here, it'll be like your car shredding machine, because it's got a 50 cal. Now, I think it's kind of interesting to note, like, I believe with the 221 and the BA-64, it's gonna be harder to hit the gunner, because you're probably only gonna see like half of their head. As for the M20, the gunner's probably gonna be much more exposed. So for the M20, you really gotta pretty much tear up the enemy car before, you know, you get shot out of your own vehicle yourself. So it's going to be interesting to see all three of these vehicles run around. And as a sort of important side note, it says light recon tier 1 and tier 2, and then the next set on the right here, it's heavy recon tier 1 and tier 2. So we're going to see light recon assault teams, and we're going to see heavy recon assault teams. So you might need to think about that. If you're one of those general types, you want to have a mix of both. So you're not just, oh, focus all your resources on the one thing because maybe it's the best. In a way, everything kind of has a place in the game. Like, in some cases, I would actually rather play the Tier 2 Light Recon just because it's fun and trolly and you can just get in the enemy's face and just annoy the crap out of them. Where your Heavy Recon's maybe a little more like snipe from a distance, try to fight other light tanks. So anyways, going on to Heavy Recon Tier 1, which I guess people will just be calling the Tier 3. You have the 222, you have T81 Stuart Reese, and the BA6. Now, we already have the 222 and the BA6, so we kind of already know how these vehicles play out. 222 being fairly fast, it's got an auto gun. BA6, simple plinker machine that's actually kind of slow. But interesting choice for the Americans at Tier 1 here. It's kind of, this is where there's the slight imbalance. You have sort of like a tank now, I guess, for the Americans. So you have a tank, you have an autoloader combat car, and then just your like standard slow plinker car. So I guess in a way they kind of go like hand in hand, you know, rock paper scissors. Like the German combat core sort of easily beats out the BA6, and then the BA6 can kind of punch holes in the T8 Reese, and the T8 Reese can maybe someone win against the 222 a bit better. Or maybe just the 222 is just better than both of them all the way around, just because you can pick out the gunner on the T8. I don't know. We're just gonna have to find out. I think the 222 is like a fairly solid machine. Faster, and you got rate of fire. I think for the Americans, just like the good benefits going for the vehicle that they have is that it can kind of climb hills better. And that's pretty much it. Besides, maybe it has a bit more armor and you have to punch through the armor. But it's, I don't know. I wouldn't have chose this vehicle as the Tier 1 Heavy Recon. But I guess maybe they didn't have any other choices. Like, I'm sure there is something else that could have fit in that spot. Now, moving on to the Heavy Recon Tier 2. Yeah, for the Germans, you get the Puma. Obviously, apparently. Like, you just gotta have the Puma. The Americans, they have the Greyhound. And the Russians, they have the BA-11. BA-11 looks like it's pretty much just a better version of a 6. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how they both kind of differ. Greyhound, we already know how it acts. I personally, I don't like this vehicle. Of the 4 combat cars that are already in the game, I kind of don't like this vehicle the most. Like, that slow turret traverse just really hurts the vehicle. And for the Puma, I can imagine it being basically like the best combat car in the game, but it'll also probably suffer from the same fate that the Greyhound has, where it's probably gonna have like a slower turning turret. So all in all, it's gonna be interesting to see some of these newer vehicles. Other ones are just going to be kind of like, they're probably going to be kind of trashy. Like, for example, the German and American tier 1s are probably not going to be all that fun to play. They're just going to be your standard kind of grind me up cars to get the other ones, and it's pretty much, once you're out of those vehicles, you're going to actually start to have fun with the better ones. So, going to be interesting. I hope that if you play a match, you'll end up getting more light recon car games than heavy recon car games, so you can grind your stuff up, because not everybody's gonna have a heavy recon car. So pretty much grind up your cars now while you can. Get them now, especially if you're the Americans. You want to try and get your Greyhound, because it's gonna be your last tier vehicle. So moving on to some speculation. Light recon and heavy recon ATs, I've already kind of said something about it. Maybe, since it's going to be more of a combat car oriented patch, or update rather, we might get HE APCR for combat cars. That would actually be kind of sweet. I would like to see some APCR on my 222. Hell, HE would actually be amazing for it. Repair costs for main cannon. Since they're going to be focusing on this area, maybe they're going to focus on costs for the cars. Which, I mean, it'd be kind of bad for people who like to drive them around, but, you know, you have to look at it. It's free. You're shooting the cannons for free. It's like a free tank, in a way. Again, they're going to be looking in this area, and they'll might give the combat cars or not combat cars, but recon as a whole, a better purpose. Maybe spotting auras or something. And finally, for the Germans, they said they will have the 251 half-track to replace the 250. So actually, going back to that page that I saw on the forums that we have back here, the 250 is moved from recon to infantry, so it'll be interesting to see that play out. Now, I wonder if I get my half-track grandfathered. I'm not really sure. I want to say no. I don't think it's going to be grandfathered. I think they're just going to take it off your character, or maybe refund it. So thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope I tried to keep it as short as possible this time. I know I missed a couple updates, like I missed the tanks and I missed the planes, but I kind of wanted to focus on the cars this time, just because they piqued my interest. So subscribe or click on the bell notification to see all the new videos in the future, and I'll see you next time.